Hey guys, what's up? It is Nicole. Welcome back to my channel, Real Talk Recovery, where we talk about recovery from addiction and I share my life with you. Today I got a special treat for you guys. Tonight we're going to have Daniel. Daniel is going to come on the show and share his experience, strength, and hope with us, you guys. So I'm really excited. I just got done sending him the email. So whenever he is ready, he'll come on. Hey, Art Deco. Whenever he's ready, he'll come on and hang out with us. Let me text him. All right. There we go. Hey, Santana. Hey, Chrissy. Can you guys let me know how the sound is? Can you hear me nice and clear? Today is just a real chill, laid back day. Hola, hola. Good. Okay. Thanks, Santana. Yesterday, it was like popping and crackling, and it was driving me insane. I'm going to put my, hey, Robert. Thanks, baby. Thanks, Chrissy. I'm going to put my, my Patreon. If you guys want to come join Patreon, here you go. Patreon.com/real talk recovery. Okay, love you, Avalon. Hey, Melissa. Yeah, there is the Patreon link. Hey, Melissa, I sent you my cell phone number on Patreon. So whenever you get a chance, go in there and give me a text, girl, so we can chat and stuff. What I want to do is I like to be able to talk to and meet the girls and guys. Now that I'm opening it up to guys, but it's gonna if we do get any guys, it's gonna be a separate chat for guys. Chrissy's a patron. Gold Dust Woman is one of my patrons. Melissa is one of my patrons. And I really appreciate you guys' support. It makes a world of difference. Yes, Chrissy, I'm going to open up to guys, but the way we're going to do it is I'm going to have a separate chat for the guys, and we'll have like a I haven't decided who I'm going to go with yet, but I'm going to kind of like appoint a guy that is in recovery as like kind of the leader of it or whatever, but that's all in the future. But for right now, you know, it's a women's based group, and we have a private women's chat, but I want to be able to let guys that want to support the channel to be able to just be in the Patreon, but not in our private women's chat. You dig? Hey, Misty. Yeah, I would never add them to the girls chat. That would just not be a good thing. Can you imagine? Oh gosh. Daniel, I see you. Hold on, you guys.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Trying to set this phone up.
Take your time.
All right. Can you hear me?
So I can hear you good. Did you shut off your notifications so that way if anybody tries to call you, it won't come through?
Yes.
Good job. Well, welcome to my channel, Daniel. I'm so excited to have you here. I cannot wait to hear your story. Like, I'm looking forward to hearing all about what you've been through. I'm super excited about it. So you know how we do it over here on Real Talk Recovery. I want you to share with us what it was like before, what it was like during, and what your life is like now in recovery. And I'm going to let you take it.
Yeah. Hey, how's everyone doing out there? My name's Daniel. Hopefully I sound okay. You sound a little bit choppy to me. So is everything good on that end?
I hear you good. You sound great.
Okay, yeah. So I guess we'll just start with, before I was an addict.
Okay.
There was very little time before I was an addict. Addiction was in my life from the day I was born. My mom and dad were addicts, methamphetamine addicts, alcoholics. Uh, and both of them ended up dying from that at a young age. So all I really knew growing up was alcoholism, was empty bottles laying around the house, cigarettes, drug paraphernalia. That was normal to me. If you didn't have that in your house, uh, that was weird to me.
Yeah.
So, I started experimenting with drugs at 12, 13, marijuana, acid. Pretty quickly found crystal meth, which was my drug of choice for quite a while. Um,
Hmm.
Now, I grew up in LA, in California, and there just drugs are so readily accessible. Anything you want, anytime you want it. There are whole neighborhoods, and people from LA or California know what I'm talking about. Certain parts of town kind of specialize in different things, from PCP to crystal meth to heroin, uh, you name it. And there's competition, um, so you can get a lot for a little. And so at about 13 or 14, I was strung out on crystal meth and off and running. And
Can I ask
so
you a question?
go ahead.
So when you were younger, your parents, when did they pass away? How old were you?
We're going to get there right now because what
Okay,
the way my
I'm gonna let you
father
take. You got
passed
this
away.
then. Okay.
Yeah, so because the way my father passed away was kind of kick-started my addiction in a major way. So 14 or 15, I wanted to say, 1997, and I'm 40 right now. I'm kind of bad with numbers, so forgive me for that. Uh, but in 1997, I had been up for probably 3 or 4 nights. Um, and that wasn't unusual for me. I mean, or for most of us, 3, 4, 5, 6, and on and on. But I had been up using crystal and other drugs, and I had been at a rave the night before. And I remember when I left my house, the last thing I said to my dad was, "Hey, did Kiefer's call my connection?" Because I was waiting for him to come through, and he just kind of mumbled something. He was drunk, and that was the last thing I said to him. And I left, and I went to the rave, and took all kinds of club drugs. I don't remember exactly what, but acid was one of them. Mind you, I'd
Mhm.
been up a few nights, and that party ended. I think it was rated or something around 3 or 4 in the morning. So I got home about 4:30, and it wasn't unusual for my dad to pass out on the floor from drinking. It just, whether it was the kitchen, the living room, it wasn't unusual to see him just passed out. But I came home this particular morning, and I came in through the door, and I was on all these drugs, but I knew that there was something different just about the way his body was positioned. Uh, there was an error in the room, and I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't know what it was. And I kind of kicked him and said, "Hey, you should go get in bed." And nothing happened, but I thought, I'm tripping. I've been up, I'm on acid, whatever. I went to my room. About 30 minutes later, my mom woke up to get ready for work and began screaming frantically. And I had knew she was screaming, "Your dad's dead! Your dad's dead!" And I had knew he had already been dead for at least 30 minutes. And so I came out, and I had to physically restrain my mom and my sister and take them outside because it was just so chaotic. And called the paramedics. Uh, Before I was able to get my mom outside, she tried to give my dad mouth to mouth, but rigor mortis had already set in. And with rigor mortis, there's lockjaw, and that just threw her into a crazy frenzy that I had to physically restrain her and pull my own mind together and just kind of make sense of things. So I put him outside, and we lived right behind a hospital in Bellflower. And so they were there within minutes, and he was dead on arrival. And he ultimately, it was cirrhosis of the liver, you know. And my mom was a functioning alcoholic at this time.
Mm-hmm.
She worked every day. She took care of the family. She paid the bills. And this is when functional kind of, you know, it always goes non-functional at some point
Right.
with us addicts. So she, that day, kind of started. I kind of walked off to the park. My family came and rallied around my sister and my mom. I was in no frame of mind to talk to anybody.
Right.
And I went to the store. I got a 40 ounce of King Cobra. Later on, my friends came, met me at the park, and I had no idea how to make sense of that. And I didn't for many years. I just started using heavier uh, meth and any other drugs that were available, be it club drugs, PCP, cocaine, you name it, but mainly crystal.
Yeah.
Opiates and pills, it's funny because I had always kind of laughed and scoffed at opiates and painkillers and always thought, man, get those away. You know, if I'm going to get high, I'm going to get high. Why would I take a painkiller or something silly like that?
Right.
And I didn't like opiates ever. So I continued on with my meth addiction and grew up in the system, you know, in and out of. Here we have juvenile hall. From there you go to camps, fire camps, and then lockdown camps, and then eventually youth authority, and then you turn 18, and uh, then you go to big boy jail, you know.
Yeah.
And so I had carried my addiction through. My mom had went full bore with her addiction, was living in hotels from hotel to hotel. We had lost everything. I was on the street, um, and I had caught my first adult charge, which was possession. And I had dealt with that right after I turned 18. I had dealt with that here in California, and I knew that it was going to wind up in the system, the adult system, and I had an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to go to Colorado.
Oh.
So I took this, and stop me if you have any questions, please.
I was going to ask you, just now that you are sober and you look back, how did that, like, what did you feel like having your mom? Because my parents are still married to this day. So I can't even imagine not having my parents there to have a house to live in, to cook me breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, what was that like being a young man trying to grow up? I mean, how did that feel? What did it make you feel like?
You know, it's an interesting question, and to this day, I don't know if it's better for me to be in that house with both of them, or for it to have gone the way it did. And that plays a huge role in the way I think now with my ex-wife and her lost in her addiction, and we'll get to that point. But you know, I could have done without all of that. The benefit of addicted parents like that, and everything, you know, either with them or on the streets, I don't think I was better off one way or the other.
Yeah.
But I did feel empty. I did feel I didn't have parents like kids my age did. I did have friends who had good parents who took me in and tried their best, and I usually burned that or ended up taking their children in a route they didn't want their sons going in or daughters, and so I'd be kicked out or whatever. And
Yeah.
you know, but losing my dad was a bummer because I hated him for a long time, and I mean, just a fervent hate because he was a big, strong guy like me most of his life. I mean, just a very physical guy. He could deal with me in a second. In his last few years, uh, he just withered, and I watched alcohol consume him literally.
Yeah.
And you would think that that would be a detour, you know. You know, I don't want to see that happen. Instead, it was just like, oh no, I'm gonna do the same thing,
Right.
you know. And that's the sickness of addiction,
Yes,
that you could
totally.
watch somebody for 2 years die like that. Just watch it eat them, and then you can travel down the same road. Um, you know, so it was rough. I lost contact to my mother. I mean, I'd see her briefly, but she began dealing with people in my neighborhood that were, you know, in California, there's a lot of politics and a certain way that we do things here. And she started dealing with men that were shot callers in my area, and men that I feared at that time, that were young, that were involved in some heavy prison politics. And so I didn't want anything to do with her, and I was doing my own thing. And an opportunity came up after I dealt with that little possession charge and got off of paper to move to Colorado. And I thought, that's great. That's the answer to everything. If I just leave, because LA is my problem, not the drugs, not the alcohol, not my situation, but where I'm at. And so I moved to Littleton, Colorado, and beautiful suburb. I mean, I had just never seen nothing like it. I was living in a beautiful home. For the first time in my life, I had family that cared about me. It was my mother's sister that had taken me in, and she had 6 daughters that were like my sisters. And it was a cool time there. I started working with my uncle in his business, doing landscaping. I was just drinking. I was drinking pretty heavy, but that's it at first. But I did take this huge bravado, kind of this attitude, California attitude that I had when I was young, and kind of I found other misfits like myself, and it wasn't long before I was right back in the mix. Before I was using cocaine is real big in Colorado, and I couldn't find meth like I could in California, so I started using cocaine. And just alcohol became it was a constant. Every day I was drinking, but I was functional. I was functional and using whatever else came my way. Still hadn't even dabbled with opiates yet or anything like that. But one night I'm in a bar. I'm not 21 yet. And we're drinking all night in a bar, and I decide to go with one other person to the gas station across the street and rob them, armed robbery. So the person that I did it with, he hold on, my wife's walking by. Let them go inside real quick. So the person that I did the robbery with, the reason why we chose this place is because he had worked there before, and he knew where the camera was in the back. So I said, great, you go get the video, I'll get the money, we'll meet at the door, right? Everything should be great. Everything wasn't good. The guy didn't give up the money. I had to physically restrain him and move him a certain amount of feet, which later I found is kidnapping. If you move somebody against their will. I had no idea.
Really?
And we'll get to that. But yeah, and he dropped the money, probably had $80-something, I think the court papers said. And I picked up what I could. Mind you, I'm heavily under the influence, and ran. And he threw the automatic locks down on my friend, who came out, threatened his life. He unlocked these automatic locks. We left that night. And I thought, great, we got the video, we got away, everything was good. 3 days later, on the Crime Stoppers Channel 4 News, the whole robbery comes out. And hey, if you know these guys, so I was done. I had family calling me. I had friends calling me saying, hey, I seen you, man, rob that gas station. They're looking for you. And what had happened was this idiot, God forgive me, but this idiot had grabbed what I later learned was a dummy video. They put these videos there. There was another video in the safe recording the same thing. So we were the dummies that grabbed the dummy video. And here, this is on TV in Littleton, Colorado, a small town. I'm busted, and I really had to consider, am I going to run? What am I going to do? So I ended up turning myself in on it, not realizing what I was really looking at, when the kidnapping came up for moving the guy a certain amount of feet. So it was kidnapping, armed robbery. And a lot of time, my first deal was 10 years, every day of that. I ended up settling. I ended up doing a little under 4 years on that. The other guy never got caught. He got away. And I'm rushing through a lot of this because I'm going to get to the main point of my addiction, which is
you're doing
opiates.
great.
But
I'm just fascinated because your story is so much different than mine. So I'm excited and I'm just listening.
Yeah. So I parole in Colorado, and I paroled to my cousin.
Uh-oh. Come back, Daniel. Come back. He'll be back, guys. I bet you his phone rang or something. Let me see. Hold on, guys. I'm going to send him another email. Oh, there he is. We see ya. We see ya.
Okay.
Okay.
All
You're
right,
back.
we good?
Yep.
Okay. So I was out on parole. Mind you, if I was to violate that parole, I would have to do the rest, like most prison terms, the rest of the time that I didn't do. And I knew I was inches away. I had been brought in on a couple of robberies that had happened in the area that were very similar to mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was considered a suspect. I had nothing to do with it, but they brought me in, and it really scared me. And so, long story short, somebody had recommended a Christian rehabilitation program. I had no religion in my life. I didn't believe in God, nothing. The program was called Victory Outreach.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great program. Hello, are you guys still there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, so it's a great program. It's a 1-year program. It's very militant. It's free, but you work for it.
Uh-huh.
And it was good for me at the time coming out after being incarcerated so long, because it's kind of like being incarcerated. And I was able to stay clean. And I did a lot of stuff with this ministry. It's a street ministry, so you go out and you outreach. You bring other people in, and there was a lot that happened with that. I ended up transferring from this ministry is all over the world. It's the largest Christian rehabilitation in the world, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends in Australia, New Zealand, Africa. So I transferred back to California, but to San Diego this time. And I got here and got involved with the church here, Victory Outreach. And there's kind of an undertone in the church, in this particular church. And I think rehabilitation in general, people were taking pills, Vicodin, Norcos, and little stuff like that I thought was silly. I wouldn't bother with it.
Yeah.
But I remember one day, I said, hey, why don't you give me a couple of those? I had been sober for a long time. And he gave me a couple of, maybe 2 Norcos, the 10 milligram, and, something else, maybe a Xanax or something like that. And I took them. And I remember the exact moment where it just all came together. This was like nothing I had ever felt. I've heard it explained like a warm hug from God, and
A warm blanket.
a warm blanket. Yeah.
One of those heated blankets that are weighted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is perfect. This is the perfect drug for me. A doctor can give it to me, and I know how to work doctors. That's easy. I live 2 hours from Mexico, so if I ever burn every doctor in town, I could just take a drive to Mexico, and literally it's like buying a pack of cigarettes. Whatever you want, you name it. Pharmacies over there, everything's over the counter, and it is just that. Just like that. Not anybody can walk in there, but if you speak enough Spanish and you know where to go, it is like that. So I remember thinking this was great, because I can still call myself sober. I can get these pills from my friend who did give them to me, and I didn't get strung out for. I take them here and there, and didn't even consider opiate sickness or it leading to heroin or anything like that. I thought this was a perfect drug. It was affordable. I wasn't sloppy on it. Matter of fact, I could get things done on it. I could function. I could think. It was wonderful. The only time it fell apart for me was when I was sick, and that came later. The first time I got sick, and I realized quickly, this is a problem, and something I want to steer clear from. If I just never get sick, then I'm good, right? And
Right.
And I stayed that way for what, go to 5, 10 Norcos, and then 15, And I know people out there think it's insane sometimes when people say how much they took, but there were days I took 40 or 50 pills, five,
Easy.
10 milligram pills.
Yeah.
Uh,
Easy. Like, because I would get
yeah,
10 at a time and take them and swallow 10 of them and then go on about my business and then come back 5 more just throughout the day, you know?
yeah, yeah,
I totally get it.
yeah. And I used to chew them. I used to chew them at first, and then one day, this is how the universe has a funny way of working. I see this old man. He's having a seizure. He had just gotten off a bus from the casinos we have out here, and I went over and I grabbed him and I set him down and I called the paramedics, and he ended up being okay, but he was really grateful. And he goes, "Hey, I got these. I got some pills. If you're interested, they're called OxyContin."
Oh,
And I had only heard about this. It was a mythical drug until this guy, because the prices were like, I'm not paying that. But this guy was selling 80 milligrams for 10, $15. He didn't know what he had, and I did, and I hit the ground running with him. You
yeah.
know, and
Jackpot.
yeah, jackpot. And so then in this time, I choose to make another mistake. I think it's called the 11th. I heard you guys talking. I don't do 12 steps. I do a form of it with my church, but I started dating somebody in recovery. Um,
13th step in.
the 13th step.
Yeah.
And I knew this girl's family had money, a lot of money, and I knew that she lived in a part of San Diego that I had always wanted to live in. It's called Ramona. It's a mountain. It's kind of in the mountains. Beautiful. It's just I fell in love with it the first time I was there. So I thought, oh, I'll start dating her, and she was in recovery too. She was a recovering meth addict, and I turned her on to pills, and we hit the ground running with the addiction together. And her mother had ran a mental facility in Ramona, assisted living, uh, privately owned. So she had a bunch of these guys, all the medicine you could imagine, from Wellbutrin to Seroquel to all those kind of drugs that these guys are on. I mean, a never-ending supply of them. So, along with painkillers and everything else, and her mom was also addicted to painkillers. At this time, uh, I was going through what this old man could provide for me in a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would gather everybody's money and take the drive to Mexico, and uh, and pick up whatever they had. You could get the old green 10 milligram Vicodins, the blue ones. I don't know all the names from them, but the yellow Norcos, the 10s. Um, and I would come over the border with hundreds of these, sometimes upwards of 1,000, 900 of them, plenty for myself. And people were just grateful that I took the risk. And I really didn't care. I never considered getting arrested. I never was arrested doing that, thank God. Um, but our addiction just got worse and worse. Then this girl that I'm dating gets pregnant. And so I asked her to marry me. And the truth is that she used through the entire pregnancy. And the truth is that I completely allowed it and supplied pills even for it. And thank God our daughter was born with no issues, no, not affected by it, not addicted. But we were going downhill fast.
Yeah.
And especially with that supply of money from her mom, and just it got real crazy. So there, and I'm skipping a lot too, but if anyone ever wants to ask questions, or for me to come back in and focus on one thing or another, I'd be happy to.
You're doing
But
so good, Daniel. We have 42 people in here right now listening to your story on this live stream. You're doing so good. And I want to have you on a
awesome.
lot more to tell all the story, because I know there's so much. I know what you mean. Like you want to get all the good parts in, but then you have to go. So you're doing amazing. Like, so good.
Cool. So CPS gets involved in, and I think that's different from state to state, but that's Child Protective Services here.
Yeah.
And our daughter was taken.
Oh, he'll be right back. Thank you, everybody that's here. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm like so happy that you guys are here. Daniel will be right back. I'm sure it just kind of dropped. There he comes. Here he comes.
Is there something I can do to prevent
It's
that?
okay. I don't know. It just said it says device disconnected. So I'm not sure.
So I live
But
up
you're
in the
fine.
mountains, and sometimes we get weird signals. But so our daughter was taken, and the reality of that just it tore me up, and I got clean. I went into a recovery home here in Ramona. I spoke about it on the phone the last time, in his steps, and my ex-wife eventually followed, and we completed this year program. We're doing really good. We're legitimately completely sober. Hadn't even known about Suboxone yet, and this ministry asked us to stay, asked me to kind of work with the ministry, with the men and stuff. They provided for us a home on 10 acres where the women stayed as well. And this is in 2000, this is 07, I'm sorry, the Witch Creek fires. We have the fires. So I'm working for this ministry. We're sober, we're clean. We've gotten our daughter back. And the Witch Creek fires, which was the biggest fire San Diego has ever seen to this day, came through. And of many things that burned, our home burned as well. We got out safely, but we lost everything. We had total loss. And the ministry had total loss. They lost the women's home. So now they have 20 or 30 women in recovery that they have to place. It was absolute mayhem. They at one point they declared what's it called? I may be mistaken, but martial law, or where the military takes over the streets, because we had no power, no water for weeks and weeks, and it was crazy.
Wow.
But we got through that. The ministry was really struggling, and they couldn't help us at all because they had all these people to help.
Yeah.
Aside from us, so we got ourselves on our feet, and we started dipping and dabbling again. At this time, and this is really sad, but it's the truth. I had a good old friend that was a chaplain at a hospital, and this guy had a never-ending supply of morphine. And so I would go to this hospital, to the chaplain. This guy's supposed to be praying over people that are passing away and that kind of stuff. And I would score as much morphine as I wanted from him. I assumed he was taking it from the hospital. I really didn't care where he was getting it from as long as I could get it.
Yeah.
So now we're on morphine. And whatever else we can get. And it's not long before I'm going over to Mexico, and heroin hasn't came into play yet. We both know that it's there, and I struggled for a long time with not doing that. We continued to use, and at some point we did see a doctor because we were going to lose our children. At this point, we had 2 daughters. Okay, another daughter, she was pregnant again. We had 2 kids, and we were going to lose them again, and it was a matter of time. So we went. At this time, we had heard of Suboxone. We thought, great, let's give it a try. So we went on Suboxone, and we did the whole wishy-washy Suboxone thing. So I can relate with people who say, "Oh, that's a crutch," or you're just selling it, or yeah. I did all that. I did all that. I'd get my prescription, and I'd sell it, or I'd hold on to it till I got sick, and I absolutely knew I needed it. I didn't consider it an actual tool at all. It was just whatever it took to not be sick, and that helped. And so we continued on like that, and there were other pills too that came in effect. The kid, what are the pills kids take for ADHD? And
Adderall.
Adderall became
Ritalin.
real big, and
Yep.
yeah, Adderall is Adderall. So Adderall, I was taking Adderall, and now I'm taking all. I had found this doctor that would just basically give you anything. So I was taking Ambien, Lunesta. Um, I needed a pill for everything at this point. I needed pills for anxiety, pills to help me sleep. Mind you, I didn't have anxiety. I didn't have problems sleeping. I didn't have real pain like this until I started taking these pills for that stuff.
Right.
Now,
I was
now
the
I'm
same
taking
way. Like I
Xanax.
would just take them, and then after I got off of them, I feel like I developed those things, you know?
Yes, yeah. So the the Ambien was a crazy one. I think to this day that's, and caution to anyone out there that gets prescribed that or is thinking about taking it. I'm not against it, but mind you, I've done massive amounts of drugs and pulled through, and I've never been a tripper, and I've had some hallucinations and stuff. But Ambien has completely blacked me out. Where I've drove, I've had whole nights that I didn't remember. Uh, and there came a time where I was taking this stuff like 3 in the afternoon, and it was just another pill I was popping. And I crashed a car, I almost killed myself, totaled our car, and this was really bad for me. And our marriage was really on the rocks. But I get a call from the guy that runs this ministry, and he says, "Hey, we're talking to this lawyer, SDG&E, which is our gas and electric company here, was found liable for these fires.
Mm-hmm.
And so why don't you call this lawyer? It's a class action lawsuit. You don't pay anything if you don't get anything. You don't get anything." So we called. We're really at the bottom of our barrel. I mean, we're just falling apart anyways. We call. We end up getting. It's a few months before we get anything, but we settle out of court for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I mentioned that last time.
Yeah.
And now my marriage is on the rocks. We're both taking every pill in the world. We're not using intravenously yet. We're not using heroin, to my knowledge. I wasn't.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, with this money, one of the things, we kind of split it down the middle. And on top of drugs, we began doing all the things we had always wanted to do in life. Okay. I began buying a whole bunch of firearms and stuff that I wanted, all kinds of stuff. She began getting plastic surgery because she had real low self-esteem.
Oh, baby.
So with the,
that would be me.
yeah, yeah. So mind you, she had already had a gastric bypass surgery. Okay. She had a tummy tuck. She had a breast implant. She had all these things. And I didn't care at all because I'm over here getting the things that are making me happy. And she's over here. We're both all shot out, but she thinks she's this model now. And we're done. We're over. I mean, and at this point we have about $100,000 left at all this money. I mean, we just went through it. I had bought myself a truck, and I got to a point I knew, as a lot of men can relate, I'm sure, that are watching this, when we get into these custody battles and stuff, we know we don't stand a chance. We know the mom gets the kids off the bat, and that's kind of how I felt at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I made a plan to move back to Colorado and purchase a house from a good friend of mine who had bought this house, fixed it, and was willing to sell it to me. A beautiful home. My ex-wife at this time, she didn't want to come. She didn't want anything to do with it, and I wasn't staying. So I left. I left my kids. It's the worst thing to this day I have ever dealt with. From years of incarceration to all the pain with my dad, and the worst pain was leaving my children that day. But I didn't know what else to do, and I was hoping that my ex-wife would follow to Colorado. So I got to Colorado, and this time I also choose to just dive off Suboxone and everything. I get to Colorado. I have maybe 10 subs. My poor friend, who's never done drugs, never been a heavy drinker, just one of the best people in the world. He took me in. I surprised him with this. I said, "Hey, man, this is a situation. I'm going to need your basement for probably a month. I'm going to need to be locked down there. I'm going to be sick. And he had no idea. He had never
Yeah.
dealt with this. But I jumped off, I guess you call it. I jumped off huge amounts of, the Suboxone when I was sick, but the other painkillers and all the other stuff, I just jumped off it. And I almost lost my mind. In Colorado, I don't know how it is in Arkansas, but they have full basements there. So it's a full living room, living quarters. And I stayed in that basement. I mean, I can't even explain to this day the mental torture. I was determined, I was determined to just jump off it. And I did. And I went through all these things that all of us can relate with: the sicknesses, the diarrhea. I didn't sleep literally for 30 nights. I don't think I slept for 2 months.
Yeah.
After that 30 days, I was okay enough to get up and start working. I had to do something. Okay. But I'm still jacked up. I'm
Yeah.
just not right mentally. So I start working, and at this time, I'm getting calls from people in California saying, "Hey, your ex-wife's trying to sell me this rifle, trying to sell me this things that were mine, things that were of worth." And I found out she was using. I found out she was putting our children in really dangerous situations, and I returned immediately to California. On the way back from Colorado to California, with all of my prized possessions, everything I had always thought was going to make me happy, I had in this truck with me, including this truck, mind you. And I'm coming through Moab, Utah, and I'm doing 80 miles an hour. And I had drank the night before, but I was sober this day. And for whatever reason, I rolled the truck. And I rolled it several times. I totaled the truck. I was in a hospital in Moab for a couple days. I cracked a couple of ribs and had to go back to Grand Junction, fly out of Grand Junction, fly to LA, and then come back to San Diego. And I couldn't come back to our house, which was owned by my in-laws. And I knew that the anger I was feeling was very dangerous, and that I needed to be around men that were going to hold me accountable and not let me do these things. So I went back to In His Steps. And I was clean. I was off the Suboxone. I was off the pills, everything. Mentally, I'm still not okay. I can work. I can function. People probably thought I was okay enough, but I stayed in His Steps, just watching my wife get worse and worse. It got so bad that the kids were basically handed off to me, and her own parents kicked her out of the house and gave me the house that my in-laws owned. They kicked their own daughter out and allowed me to come back. And so I came back, and it was at this time that I began fighting for custody of my children. This is a very hard battle, and there's a lot to that. Probably 3 months. I had a really good brother. At this time, I also took a job. There's a lot in here. So I had never had a trade. I had never really done anything with my life. I'd always wanted that. I think that's a big thing for men, is to have a trade, to have something that you're proud of, to have something we can do with our hands. Nobody had ever given me a shot in life. Nobody had ever even offered, hey. And there was this really close Christian guy, a brother, that said he owned a plumbing company. It's a Christian company that has Bible studies every morning on the clock, right? So every morning you're dealing with men. Men are dealing with you on a certain level. And he hires me in the midst of this, fighting for custody, mentally not okay, for an apprenticeship program, a 4-year apprenticeship program. So I enroll in that. And I make the decision to go back on Suboxone. Okay, that was 8 years ago that I made that decision. I won full custody, legal and physical, of my children. I never wanted to get married again. I never wanted to date. I was happy with just my children.
Yeah.
And couldn't have it. Just dating was not on my mind. But this amazing woman. A couple of years down the road now, it's just me and the girls, and we've gotten a structure. I'm really confident with this. The full legal and physical custody is pretty hard to fight to get back once you have it. So I was confident in that. I was working my apprenticeship, making money, doing things with my hands. I had pride for the first time in my life in what I did. I went to a job that I enjoyed, and I had men in my life that wouldn't let me go left or right. And I had these children that are my everything. My children are just, they're my everything. Okay.
I know what you mean.
And the thought of them growing up and having to endure what I did as a child or growing up in the system, just if I never did anything else in life, I was going to ensure that did not happen to them. And that's been my goal to this day. But I started making really good money, and I met this woman at my church, an amazing woman. I had heard about this woman, mind you, from other men in my church that had asked her out. She didn't date.
Yeah.
Very successful men that own their own businesses, that nothing like me, ex-dope fiend, struggling to get by. And I got a Facebook request, and it was the name of this girl I had heard from all these men saying, hey, we wanted to date her. She don't date, etc. So I thought, let's see what she looks like, you know. And I clicked on and I saw her picture and I said, man, she is beautiful. So we started talking on Facebook, and she said, I just really respect what you do with your children, and it's admirable. And we started talking as friends, and it got to a point where we wanted to date. And for the first time in my life, I said, listen, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this the old school way. And so we went to our pastor. She went to the same church as me for years, but we had never met. She went to the 9 o'clock service. I went to the 10:45 service. I had only heard about it. So we went to our pastor. We got permission to start dating. I just fell head over heels for this woman. Is the wife and the mother that children dream of, literally. I mean, she is the woman described in Proverbs 31 to a T. I mean, she took ownership of a situation, that to this day, I mean, she's my children's mother. And not to discredit, because I guess we haven't got to that point. My ex-wife has never gotten okay, and she's still out there to this day. And the kids have maybe seen her in coming or going, but in 8 years haven't had any contact with her. And that's her choice. We have always made that road back very, very doable, but it's going to take sacrifice, and you're going to have to be serious about it.
Yeah.
And so in that 8 years, my wife has filled that role of a mother, and we've built our house to be a house that honors God. That's the choice that we make. We're Christians. Respect to what anybody else does out there. Now, like I said, I don't do the 12 steps. I respect the 12 steps, and I encourage anybody that's doing that to continue. I do something very similar. I have a group of men that are going to call me on my bullshit. Just straight up. There's no other way. Men that know the real me, and that's what I need in my life. And after 8 years, I'm at a point where I can now I can be of assistance to other men, and me and my wife can be of assistance to other people. And so we do that whenever possible. And we have I have a strong accountability group and Bible studies that I attend. And
That's what I was going to say, like an accountability, like just a group of men that help you stay accountable. I mean, we have like women's meetings in AA, and it's like a group of women, and we all have each other's back, kind of like that, So that's cool.
So I'll share with you the last drink that I had. When I got on the Suboxone, I was still trying to sneak a beer here and there. And alcohol, it was a problem for me. Always was and always will be. And I had drank 2 tall cans this one day after work. And my boss, who I had worked for some time now, called me and said, hey, can you come over and help me with something? He had done this all the time, his way of keeping me accountable and close to him. and I needed that. But I went over there, I brushed my teeth, mouthwash, the whole 9 yards, right?
Mm-hmm.
I helped him move a safe, and after everyone left, he pulled me aside and he said, "Did you drink tonight?" And I looked him straight in his eyes and I said, "No, man, it must have been one of the other guys." And he looked at me and he goes, "Okay, I caught a whiff of something, man. I'm glad it's not you." And I got in my truck and I started the key or the engine, and it just broke me. I thought, here's this man that's done all this for me, that just wants nothing the best for me. It's plain as day. It's obvious I've had a drink. And I'm that stinking thinking. I'm lying again to people who love me and want the best for me. And I turned my truck off and I turned around and I said, "Listen, bro, it was me. I did. I had 2 beers. Uh, apologized." And he just looked me in my eyes and gave me a hug and said, "I know it was. Now you know what to do." And that was it. And that was, nobody had ever dealt with me on a level like that. Just with, there was no, he wasn't looking down at me. He wasn't judging me. But he was calling me on it. And he was in a loving way. I walked away that night and I just thought, man, this is what I've wanted my whole life. I have the career. I have my children first and foremost. I have the career I've always wanted, something I take pride in. I have an amazing wife. I have all the things that I always complained about life not giving me before.
Yeah.
And I've had all the things I thought would make me happy money-wise. That was kind of the last thing out there. I always thought if I just had money, you know, I could get high and be happy and everything would be good. And that's not true.
Right.
The more money, the more problems. And I found that out firsthand. And there's a lot in there that I left out and stuff. But do
You
you have
know
any
what
other
I want to
questions?
ask you? I want to know, okay, because okay, you were like I was. I was sober for 2 weeks before I got on prescribed Suboxone. Can you kind of share with everybody what your thought process was and why you made that decision to get on Suboxone and stay on Suboxone?
Yeah. So backing up in my story a bit, mind you, I had to come back from California. I was in this sober living, and for months, mind you, at least 3 months. And mentally, things weren't right. I still wasn't sleeping. I wasn't okay. I was going to use again. It
Yeah.
was a matter of time, whether it was a year or two. I just was not okay. I knew the benefits of Suboxone. I had not taken advantage of those benefits yet. I had abused them, but I knew that it was there, and I knew that it was a matter of life and death. That I didn't have another run in me. And there's a lot left out, but I mean, I was as bad as you can get every time. Loading that rig up, whether it's 80, 90 Cs, just to the balls to the walls every time. I should be dead a million times over. And I did OD several times, like we all have experienced, and woke up with things attached to our chest. And I knew that that's where I was headed. So I went and I talked to a doctor who put me on a high dose, actually, at first, 3 8 milligram tabs. I went on from nothing
Oh
to,
yeah. That probably knocked your ass out, didn't it?
it didn't. It's never had that effect on me. Um, and I don't know if it's because I'm a bigger guy. I'm 6 foot and I'm kind of heavier set. I don't know if but 3 is what I needed at that time,
Hmm.
and I stayed at that for probably a year. And then I went down to 2, and then I went down to 1, and I'm at 8 milligrams, and I don't have any plans of going down at this point. And I don't think that I'll ever be off Suboxone. And I don't say that in a negative way.
Yeah. No, that's fine. And that's what I try to I want people to understand. It's like it doesn't matter like if that's your choice to get off or if you want to stay on. I think that as human beings, a lot of the times I know I have felt this pressure like I needed to be off of it to be sober, you know what I mean? Like other people were sober. And then I started having to ask myself like why do I want to be like other people? I'm Nicole, and this is what's working for me. It's been so hard for me to like get to a point where I'm making decisions for what I want to do for me. You know, I always used to let everybody affect me and their opinions affect me. So I totally support long-term forever use of Suboxone, because I would rather see someone stay on Suboxone for the rest of their life, be able to be a father to their children, a husband to their wife, work their
Hmm.
job, have friends, do all these things that you're able to do, than to jump off and then die, relapse and die, you know?
So here's an interesting facet of this. There are people very close to me in my life. Like I said, I am as honest as day with everything in my life, but I don't walk around telling everybody, hey, I take Suboxone. If I feel that that's necessary in a situation, that somebody is needing that um, recommendation or for me to share my testimony, then I will. But there are people that would see this interview and would go, I had no idea he takes uh, Suboxone. And for a long time, that scared me, just scared the living daylights out of me. My wife said before I came on, she said, just remember everything that you say, once it's out there, it's out there. And I said, yeah, I'm good with that. I'm good with everything in my life right now. And those people, if they saw this and they're that close with me, then they've seen this 8 years. They've been there
Right.
with me this 8 years, and they know the success that I've had. They know the things that have transpired in my life, and it's undeniable. And whether they agree with medicated assistance or not, it's not their deal. It's my deal. It's my life.
Right.
And I firmly believe that I would be dead, incarcerated, or on the streets right now. It's it. It's the only, it's all there was out there. And I don't know if I would have ever recovered mentally. I wasn't psycho or out of my mind. Most people wouldn't even see what I was going through, but the inner turmoil, being off everything, was so much for so long. The weight was so heavy. Things were so not right that if there's people in that situation, if they've tried and they've continually backslid and backslid and backslid and just can't get right, and then give this a try and give it an honest and a real honest go. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to take the medication as it's prescribed. That's
Exactly.
important. I never thought that would even be possible,
Me neither.
but it
And now
is. And
I'm
I've,
like, I can't believe that I take a medication and I'm not trying to shovel it down my throat. You know what I mean? Like, it's
yeah,
a miracle to me. And it's also like, I don't, Suboxone has just changed my life in such a positive way that I want everyone to know how it's helped me. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
and that's kind of what, like, a lot of people have been reaching out to me lately who have been just not being able to get sober. Like they are just struggling to get it, you know?
yeah.
And just like I'm not a doctor, but like I tell try everything you can try. If you haven't tried going to treatment, try going to treatment. If you haven't tried going to meetings, try going to meetings. If you haven't tried, maybe, like you said, getting with a group of guys and having accountability partners, doing Bible study, try that. But bottom line is, it's like you're only going to have so many chances. And with the drugs that are out nowadays, you will die if you keep on doing drugs. You're going
Yeah.
to die. And so I just look at it like this, like Suboxone can save somebody's life. And if you get on it and you want to get off, you can. You know, just taper with your doctor. Use your brain, go low and slow, and everything will be fine. I don't know why people have to make such a big ruckus about maintenance and have such a negative stigma surrounding it, because there's nothing, it's helping people, you know?
Well, here's why I really just tuned into your channel and just loved everything. I love everything that you're doing. And I understand that you're tapering off, and man, if you get off, that's amazing. But one thing that I never, throughout my whole recovery, to this day, I don't think I know one other person physically that I could say is a true success from Suboxone, other than myself. Now, there may be plenty of people that take it in secret, uh, but there aren't those people like myself, like you, that have some sobriety behind us, that have, my life is tangible. The successes and um, the places that I am right now, it's tangible. You can come and you can see what the Lord's done in my life and what He's done with this medication, even. And I didn't have that. And I hope that that encourages people out there, that you see, hey, man, there are other people that are taking this medication, they're not abusing it, they're tapering down. Um, for myself, I found a comfortable dose that I am okay if for the rest of my life I take this.
Yeah.
Now there are side effects.
What are the
And
side
I
effects
know,
that you've experienced as a man?
well, I'll be honest. I know we talked last night a little bit. I haven't experienced much that I could attribute to the Suboxone. Sweating,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but that was always kind of an issue for me. So I don't know if that's the Suboxone. Maybe weight gain, definitely sugar. I'm a sugar addict.
Yes, craving
That's
sugar.
it's really a vice in my life right now, and it sounds funny, but it's something that I'm going to be dealing with this month actually, because I want to turn 40 in the best shape of my life. And so this whole last year, this is just something for myself, a promise I made to myself, because I was feeling bad
Mm.
physically. Uh, and it was my weight. I had let myself get away. So I've been in the gym, and I'm going to cut all that sugar out this month here, and go on something called an Avocare. It's just like a cleansing, um, just helps you eat right and stuff.
You
But
got
that
to come on
sugar,
the channel when you get off sugar and let us know how it worked out for you, because I've heard that coming off sugar is like coming off heroin.
no, I've done it before.
Oh, I've never
I,
ever.
so I've done this Avocare. I don't know if you've ever heard of Avocare.
Uh-uh.
It's a lot of people sell it, and it's real gimmicky, and you would think it's a joke if you never tried it. But they offer these 24-day challenges, it's called. And there's fiber supplements and nothing too heavy. I mean, you got to get into the gym, and it just kind of gives you some discipline in what you're eating. But this will be the third time that I've done this challenge, and just the last two times my wife and I had amazing results. And I completely removed sugar from my life for a while. I had no withdrawals. Um, Compared to the withdrawals that both you and I think can relate to,
Right.
for me, multiple times over, nothing really. I've quit smoking. I do vape still, but nothing compares to that. And coming off Suboxone is way worse than heroin. I will agree with that too. When I jumped off in Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
please nobody ever do that.
How many
That is
milligrams
insane.
did you jump off of?
Got at least 3 8 milligrams a day at that point.
20.
On top of, though, I wasn't taking it as prescribed. I
Damn.
was, so I just jumped off of everything.
You could have,
And
like, I'm surprised you didn't kill yourself, because I've heard that it is so hard if you jump off at any high milligram like that. Like, I've heard
I
horror
hallucinated.
stories.
I lost a ton of weight. I all but lost my mind. I held on by a thread, and there was nowhere I could go score dope easily. Um, but yeah, nobody, don't do it.
Yeah, nobody do
That's all
that.
I can say.
Well, Daniel,
So
I really, really am so grateful that you came on the channel. I do want to have you back on to like go more in depth about just your experience when you got locked up, your experience when you went through the Child Protective Services, like, because I have a lot of families that are going through that situation. So we could even get together and do videos about your experience and how you handled that, because it's so much to go through that emotionally when you have your children, getting them taken away is the worst thing ever. So
ever.
I know a lot of people would be able to relate to that too. So I want to definitely have you back on for at least 2 or 3 other videos. But is there a way that people can get a hold of you, like other men that are struggling, if they just need support? And if there is, will you let me know where that's at and send me a text on here and let me know so I can link all your stuff when I upload the video?
So I thought about that before I came on. I don't have a YouTube channel, and I'm kind of old school as far as technology is concerned. But anybody in the San Diego area, especially, or really anyone um, that has questions, legitimate questions, or that I can help, or uh, you can give them my number, and you have my number, and I give you permission to do that. Really, that's the only way, other than email, to reach me.
Okay.
Um, at this point now, I may do something with YouTube. I don't know. I think if I ever did something with YouTube, it would be about dad getting custody of their children type of stuff.
I
Um,
think that would be awesome. And if you need help with anything, and you just hit me up and I'll help you with any way I can. I'll share your videos and anything I can do to help you. I just really, I really am so glad that you came on. And I just, seeing a man be able to get his kids and raise his kids, and the fact that your ex-wife is still out there in her active addiction, it just really, like, I'm praying for a miracle that one day you're going to call me and say, "Guess what, Nicole? She's sober now and she's seeing the kids." So it's your story is just amazing, and you are a miracle.
Thank you. So are you. Yeah.
We all
And
are.
we are praying, and we have never stopped praying for my ex-wife. Uh, and that is the hardest. I said leaving to Colorado was the hardest thing I ever dealt with, and the continued heartbreak that my children have to face. Uh, the rage that I feel as a man, I'll tell you, when I see my girls' eyes welling up because it's their birthday, or this just happened a few days ago because it was my oldest daughter's birthday, and when I see the fact in those eyes well up, I only know how to respond.
Oh, crap. I'm crying. You guys, Daniel is an amazing dude. Like, I'm so glad that he was able to step up and get his babies and be their dad. Can you imagine? His story is so amazing. I see you. Come back to me, Daniel.
I'm here.
Do you hear me? Come
Yeah,
back to
you hear me?
me.
Yeah. So that kind of stuff, and for any men going dealing with that type of stuff out there, um, I have to take it to the Lord, and that's my source, my only source. I take it to the foot of the cross, and I have to leave it there, because if I allow that type of anger to fester,
Yeah.
um, it's very dangerous. And so, yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Daniel. For real.
And thank you to all you people out there. You guys are like my extended family. I really feel like that. And I just wanted to share a little bit so you guys know when I'm tapping in and watching the shows. Now you guys know who I am, and my story, uh, and I'm
Thank you.
I'm encouraged to watch all yours.
Thank you so much for coming on. Okay, for real. And I'm gonna, like I said, anybody that reaches out to me that wants to talk to Daniel, I will give them your number so they can get a hold of you. But like I said, hit me up so we can get on and we'll do another video in, like, after the holidays. You know what I mean? So that way everybody can spend time with their families, and then we'll get you on around the first of the year. Sound good?
Yeah, for sure. I'm tapped into your channel, and I'm here. There are no other channels that I enjoy the way I enjoy this channel, and no other involved with the way I plan on being with this one. So I'll tap back in with
Thanks, Daniel. Okay, you guys. Hey, Sophia, where you been, girl? All right, you guys, Daniel did an amazing job. Y'all make sure that when this video goes up, comment down in the comment section and let him know how thankful, grateful, and blessed you guys were to get to hear his story. He is a literal walking miracle. We are so lucky to have him as part of our community. And I'm just super grateful that he's here in our little community. You gonna show us, Daniel?
Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas to everybody, and that's all. I'm out.
All right. We love you. Mwah.
All right, love you guys too.
Bye.
Have a good night. All right, bye.
Okay, you guys. Hey, Condis. Okay. I guess I'll let y'all go because we were on for an hour, but you guys know the deal. I love you guys so much. If any of you guys are struggling or just need to talk, you can text me at 501-991-5149, and I will see you guys tomorrow morning with Brittany. All right. Love y'all.